Again, so I wanted to share just some of my thoughts on stuff like the paranormal and ghosts because, unlike miracles and that sort of thing, there's a much broader level of reports, anecdotal as they may be, science lacking, yes. I think, there could be credence to some of what is said. I think it would be I think it'd be foolish to write it all off. I may be an atheist, but that is more so something that comes from the motivation of just not liking religion. Um, and just thinking it's, really like, just charlatanry and just bollocks. And that's, some stuff like, people are talking about ghosts, Zach Bagans, Ghost Adventures, it's P.T. Barnum-esque fucking circus that people are profiting off of. And that I do not condone. Especially when, like, I think a lot of the stuff to do with ghosts is coming from a place of trauma. Uh, and I don't like people exploiting trauma, period. Now, so I wrote up some of my theories on ghosts, and I called it ghosts, traumatic memories projecting outwards like generational memes of anguish or stains of pain in the collective unconscious. Um, the reason I use the term meme is in this context of the Richard Dawkins definition, which is an idea that changes as it's moving from generation to generation, like a gene does, and their hereditary sense. Now, before I get into this, I will tell you my experience with quote-unquote ghosts. And these are the only instances I can give you where I wasn't high, and because I have to write off all these instances of being high because I was under the influence of a substance. Even though I felt like I met sentient beings many times, I think I was really just interacting with my subconscious, but, I can't say for sure one way or the other. Now, when I was a kid, my grandma died, and you know, uh, my grandparents were both on both sides pretty old because my parents had me at an old age. I think 45 for my mom, 50 something for my dad. So they're both getting up there in the years, and that's because they both were divorced multiple times before they had me. Um, when my grandma died, I got the news, and I didn't really get it broken to me in a way that was like palatable. It was just my dad on the phone. Oh hey, your grandma just died, and it was like, what? Just hammer to the face. That's how it felt. Now I remember, like, I was a very imaginative child. I had full-on hallucinations of like, um, you know, divine battles in the sky, horses and people with plated armor and flags racing through the clouds. And I always had this idea as a kid that I was actually someone else in a cryogenic chamber who was having this virtual experience of being a human in a different universe. Crazy shit, right? So I saw life as kind of a game, and I didn't really take it seriously for that reason. Um, Grew out of that at about 8 years old, though. It just sort of stopped. But yeah, so with that, I give you the caveat that I was a very imaginative child. I could have been just fabricating this in my mind, but um, at least that the main ghost encounter I think was like fairly vivid and hard to explain conventionally. Um, so the first thing was we went to a fishing putt range. I think my dad just wanted to take my mind off it all, and yeah, so I remember I was hitting balls, and for some reason I would hit a ball, and it was like I was like, did I just like foul it or whatever? I know I don't really foul with golf, but I was a kid, and so because I'd hit the ball straight, but it would just disappear. But then I'd see it at the end, just go, hit the net and drop it, like way farther than I was able to hit a golf ball typically. And so it did that multiple times, and I thought it was weird, but I wrote it off. And So we get on the ferry, we go to the island where my grandma is, and grandma still was as well. My cousins are there, we're just kind of doing our things, like, like kids typically do. And yeah, so like we hunker down for the night, and I'm sleeping in my grandma's bed, and I wake up at I don't know, I want to say 3 in the morning. That's what it felt like. I've always been a chronic insomniac, so I'd wake up at certain times and look at my phone, and after a while, I just knew instinctually what time it was. And so I was aware of a disturbance in the room, and I was looking around, and then it hit me. I was looking right past this sort of blurry figure, and it looked like it was almost smoky in a way. It was kind of like flickering in and out of reality, and it was transparent. And I couldn't quite figure out what it was at first because it looked very abstruse. But then I saw it was this kind of phasing in and out image. It was a holographic image of a young lady with long shoulder-length black hair, and the jewelry box lid was open. She was taking stuff out of there from the looks of it, and so I kind of went, "Hi, Granny," but I didn't think this is my grandma. My grandma, she has gray hair, white hair, whatever, and shorter hair. But then, I saw a picture of her young, and I was like, oh, damn, that was who I saw. And the jewelry box lid was also open the next day, and I asked everyone, did you open this? They said, no, we haven't touched it. Have you fucked with it? The jewelry was all there, but I felt like she was taking the essence of it, of her meaningful possessions before she left, or she was just doing that because she wanted me to see it. I don't know, but that was one of my encounters. The other, I think, was a little bit more my imagination. Like, I went to this after-school care called the Longhouse. It was in the basement of a native church. It was a really cool after-school care program. It was definitely my favorite that I went to. Went there for years. There's this really creepy room, the chair room, where I stacked chairs. And so we'd kind of dare each other to go in there and give us all the heebie-jeebies and all that. At once, we were all outside trying to hype each other up to do it. And once like I get close to the door, I get shoved. Someone locks it. Now I'm in the dark for a while because this was pitch black darkness. Ooh. And as a kid going camping, like, we would stay up, late, and I'd be looking at my friend, and as it would get darker, his face would start changing, and I think that was very much a pareidolia effect. So I think, yeah, when you're in pitch darkness like that, you can have hallucinations, for one, and for two, I was under this peer pressure to see a ghost, and after a while, I saw this kind of like white, I was like that, kind of looked like the back of a chair almost. Just more and more defined in its shape. I watched this thing. Meanwhile, and mind you, like, I'm freaking out. I'm yelling, "Oh my god, there's a ghost standing here!" Blah, 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 blah. And yeah, so like, I watched it, and it started to turn into a chest full of armor. And this head sort of came up like, and it was just looking at me like, I had a kind of bowl haircut. It looked like a conquistador, just without the helmet. And I just see this kind of like fist raise up like that, like phantasmal, like misty, ectoplasm looking fist, just kind of off-white. And I'm like, holy shit, get me out of here, I'm gonna die, guys. And so they do, and I did. but that's the extent of my experiences with ghosts when I wasn't high. If you want to hear what stuff I had, like entity encounters, just encountering seemingly sentient beings on LSD as well as DMT, I can share those, but those, again, come with this like adjudicating factor that I was high during it. So anyways, those are my experiences, and I just wanted to share that as a preliminary. And I do think that, like, the grandma experience, that could have just been my grief projecting outwards, and that's part of what I talk about here. And again, the chair room experience, that very much was like just this phantasmagoria of me having the peer pressure of wanting to see a ghost and be cool for encountering one, and also the pareidolia effect of being in the dark. Not that I had a face or anything to look at, but my mind was trying to make sense out of just this, what was being interpreted as chaos. Like, talk about how the white men, when they first went to, Nunavut, the Great North, Antarctica, they'd see ghosts in the hills, and it was because the static white in their vision was a perfect canvas for their mind to project something, because the brain needs stimuli, and so that's why the pareidolia effect is a thing. Now, my theories on ghosts, and here, I'll just read you what I've written. So, to me, ghosts seem to be the past beckoning at us for not the rest of their soul, but the rest of the evil that ended them. As with most forms of murder, the method of execution is rarely confined to one victim in one timeline. So, essentially, what I'm saying is that it is like a congregation of people affected by a similar atrocity, and it is, for one reason or another, trying to tell us, hey, don't do this again. It's a history trying to give us a warning in a way. And when history does that, maybe we should listen. But yeah, so even archaic methods of death, like the guillotine chopping block, are still murder weapons that see use every now and then. Like a guy not long ago built a guillotine, chopped his own head off with it, which, if you're going to kill yourself, that's pretty badass. Not that I'm, like, advocating for suicide or anything, but so perhaps these so-called spirits are looking for us to retire not just our arms, but the cruelty that forced those culpables, those who were doing the killing, to wield them. Another potential source for, a good example of that is the Winchester Mansion. Except that lady, the wife of the guy, the Winchester, I don't know his first name, the guy who created these lever-action rifles and made a fortune. His wife kind of went insane after he died, and she just built all these stairs that kind of went to nowhere in the mansion, and she wanted to throw off the ghosts, and she said they were the ghosts of the people who were killed with his rifles. I think she was just crazy, but it's an example, nonetheless. Now, this is another idea I have. So, another potential source for so-called apparitions is those whose obsession with skirting death. So, essentially, people have a lot of existential fear when it comes to death. And so that is a lot of energy going towards that. Maybe they left a stain on the collective unconscious during their last agonizing moments. And all that pent-up fear and misunderstanding, misgivings, high tension, it just burst out like crackling fireworks of pain among the global consciousness shared by us all. I don't know if the collective unconscious is true, but I do think it is likely, I do think it could explain a lot of these things. Now, another idea is that these are phantasmagorical representations of fresh grief, that in bereavement, and you're grieving, essentially, the minds of those stricken by it, that lament, essentially, or some sort of crippling survivor's guilt, which is a very, very powerful and very all-consuming issue, can produce a sort of tulpa, like it's essentially this idea of a thought form, something that you create with your mind, because you're experiencing energy so strong, or loss that's so strong, and you kind of want something tangible to fill what is no longer there. And so, yeah, you can potentially produce these tulpas when experiencing these harsh, confusing emotions. Is that grief can be projected out into their surroundings, through stuff like pareidolia, like I said with my example, and that allows for a manifestation purely in the mind's eye of the person beholding it, unless the collective unconscious is a thing, then potentially can be experienced by others. And it seems like this is kind of a neurological function that could provide relief from the frigid reality of their catastrophic situation. And it's almost like an evolutionary mechanism or function. But like most evolutionary functions, that temporary relief to overcome what would otherwise be a death sentence in an archaic world with little distraction, it also is an escape from your reality and is not really a good way of dealing with it. Now, I have one more theory that I don't have written down, but I think it's more likely. And it kind of ties into the second one, so I think what could be happening, and also the last one too, is someone dies and they have this just outpouring of just profound pain and just frustration at the situation, denial about the fact they're going to die. That could leave a stain on the collective unconscious, like an imprint, if you will. And that imprint, it could linger. But who knows? I can't say I believe in ghosts one way or the other. I have an open mind, but there has been so much quackery over the years. Seances, psychics, ectoplasm, these are all things that are debunked and clearly bull, but people still believe them. So, in any case, these are my ideas. I mean, the other thing is that it's just other people using effects like phantasmagoria, where projecting through an image and it creates this sort of spectral wave-like being that just, it seems to defy, just what we know as organic beings in this world. And there's stuff also like the uncanny valley effect, which can be misconstrued as something that's not real. Because with the uncanny valley, where, for those who don't know, the uncanny valley is when you get creeped out by seeing something that's not quite human, like a mannequin. And no one knows exactly why this is, but it's thought to be an evolutionary part of our design. So, we see it and we construe it as a threat because we don't quite know what it is. We can't really figure it out. So I think people may exploit that and play it off as a ghost or whatever, especially in a lot of the ghost videos you see. There's uncanny valley in almost all of them, on the ones on YouTube, on, chills, 10 scariest ghost sightings. Anyways, those are my thoughts. And yeah, take what you will, and I'm happy to hear yours as well. Synthetic, not so spiritual, Shaman. Bye-bye. I think I'll do one more video after this, but bye-bye for now.